Hey, Hound Dogs, I'm David Hankins,
And I'm Paul Hankins.
and you're on the air with Power Squared. We were going to have a guest on the show, Lucas Sheffel from Australia, but he had some work and, I'll say, personal issues, and he had to cancel on us. So we switched to a new topic,
Yes.
The Last Kids on Earth television show, which we recently just finished watching on DVD.
Yes. Because we do not have.
A Netflix account. I know, it makes us seem odd and scary, but
Makes
It's-
us cavemen. But
but we have the love of physical media because it's probably not available on Netflix, is it? Maybe not. I mean, wouldn't know, but I mean,
I do not know.
if a show disappears off there, then you can't see it. If you have it on disc, you can watch it anytime.
Yes.
So it's how we watched it, and Paul, you were the one that sort of got us interested in watching the show.
Yeah, because I've been reading a lot more middle grade stuff for personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And one series was Last Kids on Earth because I was vaguely aware I got a Netflix series, so I figured I might as well see what the fuss was about. And at reading the first book, I got hooked. So I just kept going, and then I wanted to see how the adaptation handled it.
Okay, so if you have never heard of The Last Kids on Earth, it's basically about four kids who are about 13 years old, middle school, who have survived a zombie. I don't know what you call it, not a zombie attack, but everybody turned into zombies.
Zombie apocalypse just happens.
And then there's also creatures from other dimensions that have shown up as well.
Yeah, monsters.
Okay, so but it's about Jack Sullivan, who's an orphan boy, Dirk Savage, who is sort of a bully at middle school,
Yeah.
and kind of a tough, strong guy. Quentin Baker, who's Jack's best friend and an inventor of gadgets. He comes in very handy throughout the show. And then there's June Del Toro, who Jack has a crush on, and they kind of rescue her from the middle school where she's been because she didn't want to leave because she wanted her parents to find her.
Yeah.
Even though she was the last kid in the school. Do we know how they survived the apocalypse?
They just do.
Okay. And do we know why the monsters come from other dimensions?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, 100% is just like a rift opened between the two dimensions, and the monsters came through.
Okay.
Forget exactly why.
And then they're terrorizing everyone who's left, I guess.
Well, there are good monsters and there are
bad monsters.
bad monsters.
As there are with all people. And the monsters are various shapes and sizes, and
Yeah.
as you say, some are nice and some are mean, and some are kind of nice and kind of treat you
Yeah.
mean at the same time. The show has some. One of the main monsters is Barty.
Bartle.
Bartle. Yeah, I'm sorry, can't read my own typing. Bartle, who is voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yes.
So there's some big names involved in this.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill maybe being I'll say one of the bigger names involved.
Yeah.
There's also, I won't even pronounce how you pronounce
Skelka.
Skalka, who's voiced by Catherine O'Hara, who you know from all the Home Alone movies, but before that she was part of Second City Television. Thrall,
Yes.
who is voiced by Keith David,
Yes.
and he's sort of a mean. He's a villain, but he kind of comes off as being a nice guy at the beginning, and he kind of turn on you.
So spoilers, I guess.
Well, yeah. Chef is a cranky kind of squid monster who kind of befriends Dirk.
Yeah.
He's voiced by Bruce Campbell.
Yes.
And then there's Rezak,
Yes.
who's sort of the main antagonist, and is voiced by Rosario Dawson.
Yes.
So some pretty big names involved. I wonder how they and Mark Hamill does a lot of voice acting.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they're all really good at what they do.
Yes.
So You want to talk about what kind of happens in the series, or how it relates to the books? Because I know since you read the books, we kept asking, so does this happen in the book? Does happen?
All right. I guess I don't want to go too far without mentioning the book series was written by Max Brallier, and it was originally illustrated by Douglas Holgate. So the show kind of uses a more animation-friendly version of Douglas Holgate's art style. As for book accuracy, book one, which is a movie basically, is pretty much one-to-one with the book.
Okay.
There are some minor differences here and there, but it's pretty much more or less direct translation, and I thought they did a good job at being true to the spirit of it with whatever changes they made, while also using it as an opportunity to approach something from a slightly different angle. Book two is when books 2 and 3, I guess I should say, are 10 episode seasons. Based on book 2 is based on the second book, which was Last Kids on Earth and the Zombie Parade, and book 3 is based on And the Nightmare King.
Okay.
It's right words. They generally hit the same like major story beats, and many of the same events happen, but to make it work as a series, they add things like including new characters, like a chef is, from what I remember, whole cloth invented for the show.
Okay.
Or they also expand on or rearrange some events.
Okay. One thing so basically I think the first story is just in sort of getting the team together, right?
Yes.
Basically.
And also showing how Jack was treating the apocalypse like a video game to sort of cope with everything.
Yeah, and he of all the four of them really wants this little family unit to continue.
Yeah, because he grew up in the foster system, so he doesn't really have much of a family, because when the apocalypse hit, they kind of just, his current foster family, I guess, just left him without a second thought.
Okay. No, which is
yeah.
bad.
So he sees his friends post-apocalypse as family,
and as opposed to like June seems to have was very close to her parents, you get the impression, and really misses them and wants to find them again. She thinks they escaped on a bus or something.
Yeah, she saw them. She did see them leave on the bus.
Right.
It was kind of like they just missed each other, and she wouldn't have been able to get on with them because there were monsters and zombies everywhere.
Okay. Yeah. So just missed out. So she knows her parents are still out there. Yeah. And then we don't really learn much about Dirk's family per se.
In the books, his family is kind of mysterious, as he hardly brings them up. And then in a later book, we learn more about what his dad was actually like and stuff.
I assume not great.
Not that necessarily.
Okay. I'm just guessing because I have not read the books.
Well, I want to say his home life isn't necessarily like wasn't that great, but it's not like he had a terrible relationship.
And then there's Quint
Baker.
Yeah. Who is a kind of little boy genius in a way.
Yeah.
And I guess kids like that sometimes have a hard time making friends, and Jack had a hard time making friends, so they sort of found each other.
Yeah.
And formed a pretty, close bond.
Yeah.
And I think Jack would be lost without him in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I assume Quentin seemed to have from what I gathered, he was also kind of missing his family, but he was kind of living in the moment, what I have to do, and he would take on all these responsibilities and stuff like that.
Yeah. He and June were a lot closer to their parents than Jack and Dirk were, so they were more concerned about finding their parents.
Right.
Or knowing that their parents were alive.
Right.
Because remember, Quint's parents were on a cruise at the time.
Okay. Right.
So he's hoping that they're still alive somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I forgot about that. A little bit of mystery in what happened to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just survived. They then take on sort of, and then they befriend a dog.
Yeah. A dog-like monster.
Sorry.
And Rover.
Rover.
Or Jack names him Rover.
Right. And he sort of, becomes he's like a big dog.
Yeah.
But they can actually ride, I think, too.
Yes.
And then, it's one of the things I really liked about the show was every episode ended with sort of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, you draw you in, and then, I gotta wait. So I think that was very well done by the show.
Yeah. The comment, the book could do that at times, but part of it was also part of what kept me going with the books was it had this very unique combination of prose and illustration. Like the illustration made it also like part comic book, which was appropriate because Jack and Quint are like huge nerds. Right. And like, so sometimes the dialogue would continue in like a illustration, or in later books, some of the events were depicted closer to like a comic page. And you'd also have these you could potentially have these massive illustrations that take over most of a page, or it's like a 2-page image, and the prose is still continuing within there.
Sounds like a very interesting layout.
Yeah, so sometimes you'd have a chapter and next to this big illustration, so that keeps your attention.
Okay. So the show ends sort of on a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Because they introduce another character at the very end.
Yeah.
And it got canceled.
Yes. Because Netflix just cancels shows even if they are popular. For some reason.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
unless it's Stranger Things or BoJack Horseman.
And you kind of wonder, though, if
even then BoJack ended, I think.
Yeah, it did. But you have to kind of wonder, the creator obviously thought they were going to get a 4th season.
Yes.
And sort of... Because you would kind of and I guess there was a special later with the characters, which I guess is supposed to kind of show that everything's kind of hunky-dory.
Yeah, it was Netflix has done interactive specials. A well-known one maybe would be for Black Mirror. They had Bandersnatch, which was you watch it and then they're branching paths depending on what choices you make.
I see.
So the special for Last Kids on Earth was one of those interactive specials.
Oh, really? So what we're seeing is
it's collected on here, but it's on the Book One DVD, but it's a non-interactive version.
I'm old enough to remember going to the Hemisphere 68. I was a small child, and they had a movie where it was sort of that. The audience would vote. It would come to a sort of a stopping point, and they'd say A or B, and the audience would choose, and then the movie would pick up and go to the next fork in the road, and you'd have to pick. And I think we sat through it enough times to realize that they all end up back at the same spot. But the idea was that you were kind of deciding how the movie would go.
Yeah.
So this was a long time ago, obviously.
But, and then, well, like with the interactive specials, there were actual bad endings.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and one good ending.
so what we got was, I assume, the good ending.
Yeah. What the non-interactive version is just like the, if you will, like the golden path.
So yeah. But the idea's been around for a while to do that, but
Yeah.
it's probably easier now that you don't have to have a theater with buttons.
Yeah. I remember while watching the special, I could kind of tell when it might have been an interactive choice.
Yeah, so I was very impressed by the storytelling. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah.
I think the acting was, and we didn't say who voiced I'll say the kids. Jack was voiced by Nick Wolfhard, sorry. Again, can't read my own typing. Dirk was voiced by Charles Demmons. June Del Toro was voiced by Montserrat Hernandez.
It looks like Demers.
Okay, again, typing, hardest thing to read. And then Quentin Baker was voiced by Garland Witt. I think I got that. So I think they did a really good job. I have not heard of them before doing anything. Have you?
I don't really know.
Well, because you're more on, a lot of voice actors, and I don't know if they've done other work or not.
I don't keep up with the entire industry.
Okay, I know, but I just when
Yeah.
we watch something, you remember somebody from some other show.
Usually we've seen a lot of like anime, so we recognize.
Okay, voiceovers there.
Yeah, we recognize a lot of those voice actors.
So, do you have a character that you would identify with?
I hadn't really thought about that. I don't know. I guess I see some aspects of. I might see a little bit of myself in like Jack or Quint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It seemed like Jack was always trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
And would kind of go out of his way to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
And they had very primitive weapons that they were able to defeat these monsters with, which is, again, the universe that they're in. And they were able to start a car. I mean, they drove not an RV, but a SUV kind of thing around.
Yeah, Big Mama.
Yeah.
It's like a big truck.
Right.
Closer to a monster truck, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Not exactly that, but.
Right. And they lived in a tree house that I guess was that in Jack's backyard, or how did he come to have that?
That's just
just there.
Just there.
Okay.
It was in his backyard. Yeah.
Okay. And it seems like it's very large because four people can live in there, and there's room to walk around and stuff.
Yeah.
So quite the tree house.
And the books establish he figured out how to make his own Mountain Dew.
Yeah, the thing is, eventually you would. Yeah, I mean, in reality, you'd be like a lot of things like fresh food would disappear.
They do actually acknowledge that in the book.
Okay.
And in the book, it's established more that Dirk was more concerned about his health, so he started a garden.
Yeah, they shut down. Don't they do that in the show?
They show that in the show,
but they don't really ever get back to it.
No.
Yeah.
It kind of just comes up once or twice.
Yeah. Yeah. So they are trying to grow fresh food, and they figure out how to run a generator.
Yes.
And then there's the whole deal, which I think almost goes for a whole season, the radio.
Yeah, in the third book, they learn that there's a radio broadcast from other survivors. So they're trying to boost the signal
Right.
and also repair the radio after it gets busted in an attack.
Yeah, and these, at least in the series, these people are living in the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, that's also in the book.
Okay. Which, Ellis Island, at least they're kind of secluded, I guess, is part of why they would pick there.
Yeah.
We don't know what goes on after book 3 if you're watching the show.
No.
But they do introduce a character at the last.
Yeah, in the last minute.
Yeah, and then that'd be interesting.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, wait, don't see it. But I have been reading. I have read the book series. So I'm not going to go into too much of what's beyond the show, but from what I read, basically we were robbed.
Yeah, it does sound like it.
Yeah.
It's too bad somebody else doesn't pick it up and finish it, but I don't know.
From my understanding, the author decided to, after the Netflix cancellation, he was looking into trying again, but with live action. Considering what happens later in the series, it really should just stay animated. Animation is the perfect medium for that.
Yeah, I would imagine with monsters and that kind of stuff, it would get...
Yeah, and especially what happens in book 8.
Okay, whoa. Don't tantalize us and then pull it back at the last minute. All right, so is there anything else you want to say about the series?
Yeah, with the books, it's primarily from Jack's perspective, except for June's Wild Flight, where it's a solo book focused on June, and Dirk and Quint's Hero Quest, which is, I think I said the title right, which is those two on their own adventure.
Okay. They kind of, you get the opinion, or at least the thought that he was sort of bullying Quint.
Yes.
Specifically, because he was the smart kid in school. So then they have to come around and become friends.
Yeah. And
they become, family. He becomes protective of them. I give him credit for that.
Yeah. And I would highly recommend the show.
Okay.
But I would also highly recommend the book series.
Okay.
If you are going to read the books, it's best to read everything, including Drilling Tales from the Treehouse, in release order, because it was written the way it's written. It's best consumed that way.
Okay, so it's a continual story arc.
Yeah.
From book to book to book.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I again, this is probably not a series that I would have ever watched on my own.
Right.
But it is, again, I think the storytelling's very well done, and I do like the fact that it does make you want, okay, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
What's going to happen next? And I'm glad we were able to sort of watch it fairly, we watched it every night until we were done pretty much. But I like that aspect of it. It gave you a little time to think about it and stuff. I'm not really into sitting down and watching everything at one time, because who has the time for that if you're trying to do anything? But I did enjoy it, and I'm glad we watched it. Yeah. And I wish there was more to it. Yeah. But I'm not sure I'd go with a live action version.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because I don't see how that would work as well.
Yeah.
So stick with the animation.
All right. So if you're watching this on YouTube later and you liked this, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and leave a comment below if you have an opinion on Last Kids on Earth, the series, or the books.
All right. So until next time, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you've been on the air with Power Squared.